Music soothes the soul, and music brings so much joy to our life and well-being. The Hearing Loss Association of America Research Symposium on the joy of music and loving your ears is about still enjoying music while you have a hearing loss. Our symposiums bring science to the lay person on topics that they want to dig deeper into. So this isn't just about the joy of music, it's also about musicians and listening and audiences and protecting your hearing.
Well, I work with musicians. I've seen over 50,000 musicians in my clinic in Chicago. And we design products and other things to protect the musicians. So I'm going to be talking about the performers rather than the audience. Headlines about musicians with hearing issues. Eric Clapton, I'm going deaf, but I'll keep playing. The AC/DC singer Brian Johnson had such bad hearing they told him to quit or he's going to lose it totally. Phil Collins quit his career because of that. These are not younger performers, so obviously they've been exposed for years, but this has been going on. All those people in the audience want to hear the show, but the further you are or in a corner, somehow the sound has to reach you. So those PA systems are really big. The band is standing on the stage. They're behind those speakers. Those speakers are not for the band, by the way. The band has their own speaker system on stage for themselves, competing with the line array that's giving sound to the audience. In fact, the solution to do this, so if you were standing on stage, how do they hear themselves? Or the old solution, you'll still see it at clubs, but not on major concerts anymore. These are called wedges. They're speakers at the floor. You see them, they point up at the musician's head and hear. And now they're all competing with each other because it's a volume war, loudness war, really. Just the drum kit alone, people say to me, why don't they just turn it down? And I'll say, drummer, start playing. And the drummer's not killing it, giving you a nice beat, 105 dB. That's loud. And now if you're standing next to the drummer and you want to hear your guitar, you have to be at least 6 dB louder or only just can barely hear it, right? So the keyboardists and bassists and all these people, just to simply hear themselves in the presence of a drummer, the PA system and the noise from the crowd has to really crank up the volume of those wedges. In-ear monitors are a better solution. So basically, it's a custom-made earphone, but if you can see all these famous people wearing them, right? I mean, this is every stage you see, you go, what are those things in their ears they're wearing? They're not hearing aids. These are custom-made earphones that are much different than hearing aids. And how do they work? Well, they're a custom-made headphone that plugs into an amplifier body pack. So this is the Shure system, right? The body pack you're wearing, you're plugging your earphones in, and that's a wireless FM pack. So there's a transmitter on the left that transmits the signal. So instead of sending the mix through a cable to a speaker on stage, they send a mix to each individual's belt pack. So everybody gets their own mix through the air, through the FM system. There's no speakers on stage anymore. And how it works, you see there is the engineer. There's one you see in the crowd, right? You go to a big show and there's a person sitting in the center of the audience mixing that big PA system for everybody in the show, except the musicians. The musicians have a person sitting on the side of the stage and their own sound system on stage, whether they're floor monitors or in-ear monitors. Why do they like them so much? Well, the benefits are better sound quality, right? More me, as I just explained. I can hear me better, and that's what they want. Better pitch perception, improved timing. Think about the timing delays. If you're on a huge stage at a stadium and you're on the far left listening to the guy on the far right, your drummer's 20 or 40 feet from you or 100 feet from you, you're not getting it in real time. Those signals are all hitting you at delays in different times. But now, with they're all on ear monitors, everybody gets the signal exactly at the same time. The timing's great. And if you don't really do much else, the sound chamber, the sound measurement, the concert hall is your ear canal. It's about a 2.5 cubic centimeters space. So it doesn't matter where you go to play, it sounds the same. because you're not really changing much else. Everything's done within your own ear. So they do a little modification on a sound check before the show, but pretty much that mix is set the same way because musicians like things that way. Very constant. Musicians' brains are plastic. If you knock the knob, if Ian there would knock the knob 1 dB, they'd all look at him like, what'd you do? And they create this sound signature in their head. And what makes a good sound engineer is to realize what that sound signature is and then be able to deliver it to them. And everybody has a different one, everybody in the band. It also reduces, well, it gets complete mobility, right? So you can see Taylor Swift there. She can run out into the crowd and still hear everything. She can go, I had a band, the guy ran all the way back to the back of the club, sang the song, ordered a drink, and ran back on stage, and he didn't miss a beat, and it was in time. But without those in-ear monitors, there's no way he could have done that. It reduces and almost really eliminates feedback. You guys know about feedback. I'm sure a lot of you know about that. But here you have this very loud speaker, like your hearing aid has, and you have this microphone, and you're trying to make it louder, and you hear that whoop. So what happens is they have to turn down the wedge. And what that does is create vocal fatigue, because now the singer, to hear themselves, since they can't turn the speaker up any louder, has to sing louder and ruin their voice. And it also means that if we're getting rid of all those amplifiers and sound levels on stage, those wedges, there's a lower level for the audience. The guy sitting in the audience has to mix over the stage. The stage isn't complementing his mix. He's got to battle it. So when they're mixing for the audience, if there's no stage sound, they can make a pure, clean sound and not have to go louder than the stage. And this helps. And also, this system has the potential, and I say potential, to reduce sound levels on stage and protect hearing without even compromising sound quality. No compromise at all, because you can mix it to sound the way you want. How do they protect? Think signal to noise ratio, right? Isolation from stage volumes gets the musician the opportunity to hear what they want and not have to overdrive it over the other instruments on stage. Of course, they still have to turn the volume down. And actually, there was a study I participated in on 100 musicians in Nashville with a researcher, Jeremy Fetterman, one of my favorite researchers. And we took 100 musicians and we said, turn the floor monitors to what you like, and we're going to measure that with a probe mic right in your eardrum so we can tell how loud it is. And now, we're going to put on the ear monitors that really block out a lot of sound and turn those up to what you like. And we're going to see, and I was so excited to show everybody how much ear monitors get softer. And in fact, the real problem was 98 out of 100 of them turned them exactly the same, not even 1 dB different. And in fact, all 100 trials had a 0.6 dB difference between wedge and ear. Why? That's that plastic brain for a musician. It's this loud. When I put on my ear monitors, I turn it back up to the same loudness. Until you tell them, hey, if you turn the wedge down, how much can we turn that wedge down now? They couldn't go down 3 dB, I can't hear enough. Okay, turn your ear monitors down, they're down 10 dB going, wow, it sounds good here. So I said, get used to the sound here for a couple weeks and your brain will think this is plenty loud. So it's really just readjusting. The problem is too much isolation. You see these people, I don't know if you ever see this, but they're yanking one out or they only wear one. And people come up and go, is that because it hurts? Or they go, no, it's because they're losing localization and spatial cues that they used to have with nothing in their ears. So what's the solution? Active microphones in each earpiece. So there's a product that has active mics. So now all of a sudden you have that great mix, and now you can get the spatial and localization cues around you like you don't have anything in your ears, even though you're all plugged up. And there's an app with it that allows you to turn the mics down in 2 dB steps or up. So we fit these on the New York Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, and some of the older orchestra members, nobody knows what they're doing, but the tears started coming when they realized they could correct their hearing loss. So what they were doing, this is an analog product. There's not like a hearing aid. There's nothing digital. The frequency bandwidth is 20 to 20,000 hertz, and it goes up to 130 dB without clipping. So it's unlike your hearing aid in many, many ways. But they can turn that up or down. There's 7 bands of graphic EQ. They can turn the bass up or down, or the highs or mids. And then the third screen has memories. So if you're in 3 different bands and you have 3 different settings, you have them memorized in there. There's also a cross option. I can't tell you the number of musicians who are unilaterally deaf. It's amazing. There's so many of them. And so what the cross system does is gives them a stereo feedback. We take the mic on the dead ear and send it to this ear. Now they've got stereo imaging in their brain, even though it's not. How do they know when they're too loud with the earphones? And that's been a real problem. Nobody can tell you. We can tell you with that nice dosimeter that Marcia was showing you from Adamotic how loud the room is, and it gives you a dose. But how loud are those earphones? So this device is coming out actually next week, and it tells, they decide what program they're going to use, what product they're using. They program that in, and then they plug into it and play, and it'll tell you how many dBs your earphones are. But on stage, this gives you a time. Tells you how many hours and minutes you have that are allowable before you reach that damage risk criteria. So that's how we do it for musicians. You'll see these people wearing them, whether it's in your church or in a band or an orchestra. I mean, this is something that is in every part of the music scene. And I hope you learned a little something today. Thank you very much.
So tell me what you learned.
So I think one of the biggest thing I thought was really interesting was just from the musician perspective, like just providing hearing protection. Because I knew a little bit about like the in-ear plug that they have, but I didn't know as much of like how much they can customize, like how much they can hear the audience, how much they can hear the band members. So I thought that was really cool because I'm not like super into music, but I like music enough. I play some musical instruments, so I think that's interesting, just thinking about that perspective of music.